Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to the third in our series of 5 of the V movement. So maybe we have some new people, maybe you've been to the previous
Hello,
two.
everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good
I
evening.
apologise, I've got YouTube up so I can see what was happening and I forgot to turn the volume down. We are here on the third series, but before we get into what we're going to talk about today, just a wee bit of an intro and a recap on the last couple of sessions. So first session, really Heather and I just introducing the V movement and why vulnerability is important to us. We got you to complete your vulnerability audit, so love to hear if anyone's been doing that in the interim, how you found that. Please do use the chat so we can make this a really interactive session. If you've got any questions or any feedback on any of the activities that we've been sharing with you. Last time in the second session, Heather and I got very vulnerable and shared our letters to our childhood self. So that was all about connecting with a younger version of ourselves and really exploring our vulnerability stories and what we wanted to share with the world. And I certainly know some of you have taken on that task of writing your letter to your younger self. And David, I know, is on the line. So published his on LinkedIn. It's well worth a read if you haven't already, if you're not connected with David. But that's what it's all about, just seeing how people are being more vulnerable, connecting with people and connecting with themselves, really. We're going to do something today that we've not done in any of the previous sessions, which is a process called clearing the space, because today the focus is all about you now. And so we want you to get really present. So wherever you are, if you were just going to do some breathing together to clear the space of any thoughts or emotions that are maybe taking up your head at the moment that mean you're not as fully present as you can be. So take a comfortable seat, shoulders stacked above your hips, hands comfortably in your lap, whatever's comfortable for you. And just gently close your eyes down if that feels good, or gaze at a point just beyond your nose if you'd rather. And just gradually start to notice your breathing. Is it fast or is it slow? Is it deep or is it shallow? What does the air feel like as it comes in through your nose and going out again? Don't feel you have to change your breath, just notice it at the moment. Notice the sounds around you. Notice what's far away, maybe cars in the street, birds in the trees. And notice what's close, sound of your computer fan or your breathing. And invite your breath now to get a little bit deeper. So take a big deep breath in, hold it at the top for a second, and then a longer breath out. A big deep breath in, hold, and let it out. And just notice any thoughts that are coming up for you. No, don't worry about them, don't be concerned about them, just notice them. And put them to one side for now. Bring your attention back to your breathing. Notice any emotions coming up for you. Name them and put them to one side so you can focus on being present now. And take a big deep breath in. Hold at the top. And if you feel comfortable to let it out with a big sigh. One more of those. And just allow your breath to come back to normal now. And when you're ready, gently blink your eyes open. ready to be present in the session.
Thank you, Gillian. Welcome to loads more people, actually. It's gone crazy in the chat. We've had Tim already talking to us about vulnerability and authenticity, so important. And thank you, Tim. Yes, we 100% agree, which is why we're doing what we're doing. I don't know about you, but I felt quite vulnerable doing meditation live. I don't know whether you experienced that, Gillian, but we'll definitely explore what comes up for me around that. I'm not sure whether anyone else in the audience felt that from me, but I thought I'd talk about it. Yeah, so like Gillian said, today is about you having the ability to be fully present and be able to experience that, and giving you then the ability, when you can be fully present, to get really connected to yourself. I really struggled. If you spoke to me a year ago, you would never see me doing meditation. And I used to avoid, right? So I was like in massive avoidance mode, and it took me away from kind of thinking about what was going on with myself. I'd always find something to do and be busy and not still. So I really struggled with that. And it was actually affecting how powerfully I served the clients that I was working with as well. And I didn't really know that until I joined the community where I met Gillian. So excited to kind of get involved with you on this topic, definitely.
That's definitely something that resonates for me as well, Heather. It's so easy to keep ourselves super busy and not take time to think about how we're feeling, how we're being, what we're putting out into the world. Just keep on doing, until often we burn out, or we're not being authentic to ourselves, as Tim says. So for me, taking that time to connect with myself and build mindfulness, meditation, yoga, etc. into my day has been something that's really important.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because the meditation side for me, like I used to think it was like airy fairy. So like I used to think, why do you want to sit still? Like, why do you want to just sit and breathe? That's really weird. Like that's what I was like before. I was quite in a high performing kind of position as well at the time. So I was like working 6 till 9. Who gets the time, right? That's what I used to think. So I never really understood at the time the importance of giving ourselves that time to be fully present. And the things that it's allowed me to do, other than connecting deeper to myself, my intuition, it's gone through the roof. Like it's become, can I say, my go-to kind of place, internal intuition, rather than kind of thinking up here, just by creating the space to sit and be fully present. Definitely.
Yeah. Be great to hear from the guys that are watching and girls that are watching, what came up for you during that meditation. Is it something that you do lots of? What kind of feelings, emotions came up for you as we were sitting, breathing there? Share in the comments. So what do you do, Heather, then to find that space to get present?
Well, it was interesting because we chatted about this yesterday, didn't we, when we were talking about this session today, and there's so many different ways of doing it, but I found being fully present in nature has really helped me. So what I mean by that is really noticing what's going on around me when I'm in that moment, rather than just walking and not noticing the trees or the birds sing or anything like that. I didn't do that. So for me, that's how I find getting really centered and kind of being still and fully present, I guess.
For me,
have like different ones, like are there tips?
I think for me, I think it's different for everyone, and it's finding what works for you. So like for me, I can find stillness of my mind in movement when I'm running, for example. Because that can really clear my mind, and then I connect with my intuition. I sometimes get some of my best ideas when I'm out running, for example. But also the meditation finding time to do it, and it's amazing how just that 10 minutes can make a real difference, but also how hard it can be to find that 10 minutes. Sometimes you get to the end of the day, you've not done it, and you're so tired you just want to flop into bed. So making it a habit is really important, and that's something David and I have talked a lot about with our heart-centered leaders community, is how do we start to form some of these habits like meditation, like journaling, to really help connect with what's going on for yourself.
And I mean, there's quite a lot of chat going on for David, actually. He's getting some kudos around his letter, which is amazing. I'm so glad you enjoyed doing it, David, and I'm really glad that people are having the ability to see the power of it, really. So I thought I'd mention that. But for me, it was about having the ability to be and be still and be with myself that I didn't have. It just wasn't possible. And I would choose action for distraction, and I would really kind of be restless because I was avoiding having that stillness, I guess. But now, I mean, like, it's made me face quite a lot of my fears because I've sat still and done that, but also allowed me to kind of start sharing this insight with other people, which has helped them have that ability. But the self-awareness, Gillian, oh wow, the grounded self-awareness that you gain from it, just I can't even explain the things you learn about yourself when you give yourself that space, right?
Yeah, and I also think it's really scary for some people, and why they avoid it, isn't it? Like wondering what am I going to uncover when I start to really explore what's going on for me, and it's easier almost just to stay busy and to stay hard at work and not take the time to explore that because you're scared of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it can be a fearful thing, but look, we've got quite a lot of people actually telling
lots of interaction today. Thanks everyone for your
comments. I love it. Simon Johnson, hello. You'd like to go out on your road bike? Wow, okay, that's good.
Yes, like Sid mentioned, I quite often do use music when I'm meditating as well. It takes this different vibe to it.
Yeah. And I would invite you, Sid, actually, what I found really powerful, there's a TED talk, and I only said to Gillian about it yesterday, and it's called The Transformative Experience of Listening to Classical Music versus Ones with Words. So I'll try and remember the guy's name and share it with you after. But definitely a different kind of being present when there's no words involved.
Saeed, comment something as simple as having a mindful meal. Yeah, absolutely. So we all often will sit and be doing other stuff, scrolling through Facebook, answering emails, just not concentrating on our food at all, but really taking the time to focus on our food. And if you've read any of my other blogs or things like that, you might know that I suffer from binge eating disorder, and something that really helps me with that is having mindful eating. So making sure I focus on what I eat and really enjoy every mouthful and think about every mouthful. Oh, we're getting so many great ideas.
I know. Do you know what? I picked on David's a lot, right? Because I remember us talking a couple of months ago, Gillian. You said all your ideas come to you in the shower.
Shower or running, one of the two.
Yeah. It's also being able to shower mindfully, though, because I used to get in the shower, as people say, you don't really focus on what's going on, but actually being under the shower and listening to the water.
Yeah. I think because I think these comments don't show up once the live's finished, so we'll make sure we capture all these comments and ideas so that you can have access to them afterwards as well, because there's some great ideas. I'm intrigued, Tim, what is ROMWOD? Tell us in the comments, or provide a link where we can find out some more. It sounds fascinating. Cool. Okay, so is there anything else that you do, Heather, that helps bring you present and more mindful? Have we covered everything, do you think, in these?
I think so. I'm trying to think of other things that help me build self-awareness. I guess the areas that we're working towards or going to look into now is maybe a year ago, no, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, because we're going to look at our current self in the next exercise or tool that we're going to share with you. But I used to believe from a feedback perspective that it was just that person didn't like me, and that's why they were saying all these things. And I felt really vulnerable when I was receiving feedback, and I couldn't be fully present when I was receiving feedback because I was just going to be defensive about what they were saying about me. And now I've completely flipped because I'm really comfortable with myself, more connected to myself, to the point where I think feedback is a gift and helps you grow. So I think being fully present to receive that information is a big part, I guess, of growing as a person and getting more connected to yourself. Would you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So the tool that we're going to look at today, which is one you can use with yourself and with colleagues, is called Johari's window. Do you want to bring it up on the screen, Heather?
I will.
So if you've not come across Johari's window before, I'll actually flick onto the...
Let me just hide Tim's comment.
Oh yeah, thank you.
There's quite a lot of ideas coming out now as well. People are getting
exposed. Yeah.
It's good.
Fascinating. It's brilliant. So this is Johari's window, and it's basically a tool for increasing your self-awareness. So if you look at the two headings, we've got known to self and not known to self, and we've got known to others and not known to others. So the skills, the experiences, the mindset that you have that's known to self and known to others, that's what's open. That's what everyone knows about you. That's who people see when they see Gillian, or who people see when they see Heather. That's all very clear and open. Doesn't require you to be vulnerable. Doesn't require you to get feedback. That's just who you are. The stuff we've been talking about previously is around what's hidden. So what's known to you but not known to others. So this may be stuff that you've worked on personally, or stories from your past, or like a letter to your younger self that you maybe haven't shared with people before, but through sharing you can build that connection. So like David shared his letter to his childhood self. We had an interesting conversation yesterday, David and I, about the fact that we both found it more difficult to share on Facebook with people that knew us personally than on LinkedIn and other platforms. But starting to open more of yourself so that you're bringing your whole self that we've talked about in the previous two sessions. And then where Heather's talking about in terms of feedback, that's what's known to others but not known to yourself. So things, and these could be strengths or areas that you want to work on that you don't see. And where we ask for feedback, and through getting feedback we start to understand more about ourselves. And as Heather said, that's something that people can often become defensive about, or worry that it's because people don't like them, or just worry about what they're going to hear from people, and so they don't create this culture as leaders or as individuals where they're that receptive to feedback. And so certainly those of you that are working in organizations, even just working with other people as freelancers or as coaches, etc., then asking for feedback regularly is a way to start to increase that open box. And ultimately what we're looking to do is make the open box as big as possible and the other 3 boxes as small as possible. So we've created this tool, or we've not created this tool, we shared this tool. I'd love to have created this tool. We shared this tool as something that you can use yourself, use in organizations, and it's downloadable on the website that Heather will share again at the end. But on the second page is a kind of cleaner template that you can print off and use yourself if you want. And it's a great way to use as a team meeting, to get people sharing and start to build that culture of feedback and doing it in a constructive way. Also great to use on a one-to-one basis. So like the questions that we shared last time, using in your one-to-ones and starting to have much deeper conversations with your one-to-ones. Heather, I know you've been using it or thinking about using it with your Lonely Coach community.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, this tool, because like you say, it's about getting everything out there known to you and others so that you don't have anything hidden. And I think I want to say definitely it was a vulnerability thing before for me, you know, to ask that sort of question of others and also receive it gracefully. So, you know, have the courage to do it, I need to say. I found this so powerful when I work with coaches in the Lonely Coach community. What I found in the group sessions is they've all learned something new about themselves. They've all had the safe space to be able to share something that people don't know about themselves. And the growth from it has been really, really powerful, to be honest. And I guess from a coach community perspective and also from a leaders community perspective, I guess it's helping them have that ability to be grounded and strong, knowing who they are. That's the key thing. And it also, when you know who you are, what you stand for, and what your skills and abilities are, then the way that you interact with other people and connect with other people makes all the difference as well, Gillian.
Absolutely, and I'm just picking on Linda's comment here, if you want to share it on the screen. So I think a lot about feedback is delivered, how feedback is delivered is key if people are not ready to hear, and absolutely spot on. I think what's almost most important if you're using this with a team or with somebody else is how you set up the conversation. And something I use a lot when I'm coaching, also when I'm doing I get them mixed up, meditations and mediations, when I'm doing workplace mediation where people are in conflict. It's about setting the conversation up so that you're both clear that this is about self-awareness. It's about trying to become the best version of yourself so that you can be, and that feedback is offered to be constructive. That it is something that's that is to use a well-coined phrase, feedback is a gift, and you can ultimately choose whether you accept feedback or you don't accept feedback. What I often say to people is assume a positive intent. So whatever someone says to you, even if it immediately gets your hackles up, actually thinking about what could the positive intent of that feedback be? What is it that they're trying to tell me? What if it was my best friend that said this to me? What might their intent be? And so positioning the feedback in that way, but generally building a culture. So if you're in a leadership position, like I know you are, Linda, if you're in that kind of leadership position where you're having to build a culture or wanting to build a culture where feedback is something that happens all the time, it's not just at the end of year appraisal, but you're talking about it, you're sharing with each other, you're being open about what's gone really well, what you really loved, what's brilliant about the other person, and also maybe where they can improve. Just having those conversations on a continuous, regular basis as a leader, inviting feedback and inviting it regularly and not becoming defensive when you get it. So accepting it, even if you don't necessarily agree with it, like I say, you don't need to do anything with it, but being accepting of it and looking for themes. Ultimately, one person's experience of you one time is not a representation of your character or your skills or your experience. But when you start to see themes in feedback, then that's where you think, okay, maybe there's something I need to look at here. Or maybe, I know when I've done Johari's window before and we've done feedback sessions, you discover stuff that other people think you're great at that you just don't see, and starting to lean into, okay, maybe I've got a strength here that I didn't realize I had, and how can I build on that? How can I use that more? Yeah, setting up the conversations really well and just encouraging lots of feedback all the time is the way forward from an organisation perspective.
And I know Rod's watching, and he's a massive fan of this. When we did this session with our community, he learned so many things. Just, you know, from that he didn't really, they're not in your kind of consciousness mind that this is a particular thing that everyone experiences from you. So, you know, just the power of bringing it into the room and having the ability to really think about, well, actually, yeah, I am quite kind, or I am this, or we've had a question from Sid. He's just asking about a reference archive. So I'll be sharing the link for you, Sid, that you can access these documents from all 3 series that we've shared already. And you can then download Johari's window. In regards to books, I would love to hear about the areas that you'd like support on from a reading perspective, because as you know, we work, well, the area that we're working on is vulnerability, but it might be that you want some more support on something else. So let us know that.
And if you have any book tips, please do add them in the comments for people. Certainly one that I often recommend to leaders is called Turn the Ship Around, which is by David Marquet, who was the commander in a submarine in the US Navy. And his approach to leadership was completely about being vulnerable, so admitting that he didn't know the answer to everything, that he needed help, that he empowered his team to make the decisions and kind of relinquish that control that often leaders, certainly in the US Navy at the time when he was in command, was very much a command and control culture, and he completely turned that on his head. So his book, Turn the Ship Around, I often recommend to people. Vulnerability generally, anything by Brené Brown is always good. So she has quite a number of books now. Start wherever you like and read through them all. Or if you don't have time, just listen to her TED talk on vulnerability as well.
Yeah. And actually her podcast has been really good for me because it had some areas in there around loneliness. We've had Rod ask us a question actually, which is quite a good one in the context of what we're sort of sharing in terms of feedback. So if no one has opened up before, it's very difficult to step out and be vulnerable. Could it make or break a meeting?
Interesting.
Yes, that's what modern leadership and being a leader is all about. I'll show you, or I'll invite you to be able to be open and share what you might be hiding or what you might be afraid to talk about. So it starts with it starts with you know, it starts with following the movement.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we saw it in our community, Heather, where when we started sharing our vulnerability stories, it was almost like that avalanche effect, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But certainly if you are in that leadership position, then your role in almost being the first to do that, inviting it, showing that it's okay is really key. I think the trust is really important. So if you're in a meeting, or if you're doing this in a meeting in a team, then you're not going to be able to do it if you don't have that trust, if you don't have that psychological safety. And so that's really important in the team. And almost the first rung, another model or book that's useful is Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of the Team. So lack of trust is the bottom one, that then other things come off. If you don't have that trust and that psychological safety, where people think, you know, it's okay for me to share how I'm feeling, or what's concerning me or what's worrying me, because I know that the team have my back. It's not going to be used against me. No one's going to be talking about me behind my back, but this is just the culture of the team that we have. So that's really important. And it can happen, sometimes you need to make it happen in small stages. So maybe don't share your deepest, darkest secrets right off, but share something that people don't know about you. Often as leaders, we get into this place where we think, actually, we need to stay closed off from our team. We need to be professional. We shouldn't share anything of ourselves. So starting just to share some of that and be more human is a good way to begin.
Yeah, I agree. And it was so scary for me. So I completely, get that taking that first step is going to take a lot of courage.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just conscious of time, Heather. I'm not sure where it's gone. Do you want to the website, and I'll just, Lucia's asked a question, which I'll read out while you bring up the website. My question is, how can we bring this knowledge and practice to young people who are not in employment so they prepare themselves for good working relationships at a later stage? That's a great question, Lucia. It's something, and you know what, I think we should be doing it before we even get to the stage that they're not in employment. It's stuff that we should be teaching more of in schools, when as they start to learn these social skills, encouraging people to give feedback, to be vulnerable with each other, to be able to have constructive discussions and constructive conflict as well. All these kinds of skills that sometimes trip us up in the work environment are all ones that we could be learning much younger on. But in terms of those that aren't in employment, I think anything around mentoring or programs like that could be helpful.
And just to add to that for you, Lucy, what I've recommended in the program I work with for Solihull College is to influence the parents at home, and that could be using tools like a feelings diary, so they can write down what's going on, and everyone in the family can do the same. So it starts there as well. I think that would make a difference.
Yeah, journaling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've shared the link so you can download all of the 3 tools that we've used over the series. And we're at time.
I know, doesn't it fly by?
I know.
So what are we covering next time, Heather?
So next week we are going to get you fully connected to your future self.
Amazing.
Look
forward to seeing you then. Same time, same place next week.
Same time, same place, same people.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone.